foresights, which was suffering and problems of the world. And so that led him to want to look for something more in life than the riches that he was presented in the palace. And the 5 precepts, one thing about when you find enlightenment, one thing about that is, you know, you form compassion. And this is what he done. The prince who became a monk on his way to, after he found his enlightenment and found his Nevada, he felt compassion. And so with that compassion, he legislated the 5 precepts and the 8-fold pact for the monks and the nuns in the monastery, and for the lay, and for his lay disciples, so they could have a way to of learning, teaching. These are the 5 precepts: abstain from killing, or harming living beings; abstain from stealing; abstain from improper sexual conduct; abstain from false speech; and abstain from taking alcohol or harmful drugs. And we'll get into those. Let us keep the precepts of no killing and no stealing. The first precept: I will undertake to respect all living things. This implies the intentions to live in balance with all of life and with the planet as well, the planet as a whole. And this is, you know, this is the kind of, the 5 precepts in the 8-fold pact. To me, they kind of correspond because, well, this right action is what's called in the 8-fold pact. And what this means to me is not only harming a human being, but also we have to look at the planet, the universe as a whole, because we're all interconnected. And whatever, anything that we do to another person, another animal, or life with centric being, then it affects us all. And so it's not just to it's to keep a good balance in life and to keep the universe in order. And the second precept is taking what is not, well, it's about stealing. Thou shalt not steal. And the second precept is about taking what is not freely given. Opens up when we think of it as an opportunity to receive graciously what is freely given and to become generous givers ourselves. So what I got out of that was like, I can take, I mean, I would lose out on my compassion if I was to be selfish and taking other people's things. But the positive side of this is, if you learn generosity, then, for example, you know, the other day I was at home and I had a pot in my kitchen and I wasn't using it, and I figured I probably wasn't going to use it. And there were some people who I lived at in the community, and I was sure that someone needed a pot. So I took it down to the community room, and I asked her, "Does anyone need a pot?" And immediately there was a lady that said yes, you know, because she was thinking about buying a pot. Well, that generosity, the positive side of taking is to be generous, and that helps in this helps to further enhance our improvement on the road, on the eightfold road path. Okay, let's move on. Let us keep precepts of no sexual misconduct and no lying. Okay. The third precept has to do with abstaining from sexual misconduct. I think this gets to be the need for wholesome respect and power balance in relationships, because you have to have, as one of the monks once said, you have to have consciousness and concern in any relationship. And if we don't have that, then there wouldn't be no such thing as somebody's mother or somebody's daughter or the teacher's wife, or just a good person, a good wife, because we wouldn't have a conscious or consideration. So that's why the Buddha put the third precept in here. And there are different cultures have different traditions as far as sexuality is concerned. And as far as the monks and nuns, they're celibate, and as the lay Buddhists, they have, like I said, it depends on their culture, where they live, how they treat sexual misconducts. The fourth precept. The fourth precept has to do with abstaining from false speech. This is a big one and could fill an entire sermon of its own. Our words can get us in more trouble in individual relationships or in our community quicker than anything else. And this fourth precept deals with, like lying and it can cause a lot of damage and suffering. There's something else that's okay, like for instance, this could be like, okay, just not individually, but like there's such thing as industrial lying. Like for instance, back when the tobacco, Philip Morris, but Brown & Williams, they were the big ones. And they were, in cigarettes, they were making big profits, a lot of money on tobacco. And but they wasn't telling everybody that they were putting these acids in the tobacco to get people hooked to cigarettes. And so that's just like downloading music from the internet. A lot of people think, well, that's okay. That's wait a minute. That's on stealing. I'm on lying. Wait a minute. Excuse me. But lying is, it's a wrong form of speech, and we should be compassionate with our speech and try to comfort and say nice things to people, to make them fill them with joy, happiness, and loving kindness. And that's part of the Buddha path. Let us keep the precept of no intoxicants. The fifth precept. The fifth Buddhist precept is to abstain from distilled substances. Uh-oh. We remember these are voluntarily. And I think the broad interpretation of this precept is to be mindful and living in a clear, life-giving center, not allowing ourselves to become centered around the addictive substances or processes. And this could, this goes in hand with right mindfulness that is part of the Eightfold Path. And there's all forms of intoxicants, not only just alcohol, drugs, and beer or whatever. You can also have intoxicants like due to the media, due to pornography, due to, there are a lot of forms of the internet. You know, anything that's intoxic to the mind, anything that strays you off from the mindfulness and awareness of the Buddha path is an intoxicant, and we should be aware of that. And the 5 precepts continue. There are 5 precepts, those were 5 precepts for lay Buddhists. These are 5 precepts for the monks and the nuns, which they are, you have to take a stronger vow in order to keep this order of traditions. And this is one that I really didn't know, but I mean, like abstain from eating after noon. I didn't know that. I mean, maybe, I guess that's right because they wouldn't have it in there, but that is like fasting for real. That's true dedication, you know. And yes, and then abstain from entertainment, abstain from perfumes and adornments, comfortable beds, and accepting gold or silver, which is the same as monetary value. And now we get to the path to enlightenment, the Eightfold. I mean, the noble truths of the Eightfold Way. And what I like about this is the Eightfold Path, and it's called the Middle Way. And this is the doctrine of the Eightfold Path is the middle path. And in this way, a person can gain their insight, you know, without outward, without worship or prayer, you know, without outward influences. You know, you can, what it is you're looking for self-purification. And the middle path is a righteous way of life which does not advocate the acceptance of decrees given by someone outside oneself. He chooses this self-imposed discipline for a definite end in view, and that is self-purification. And I thought that was really interesting. That's something I've learned in this class, and I think that is something that will benefit me, and I really appreciate that right there. Now, the Eightfold Path is broken down in 3 categories: wisdom, morality, and meditation. And you need, well, the right views. Let's get right to it. Let's talk about some of this. The right views. The right views are necessary for right understanding, for understanding leads to wisdom. And if you have wisdom, then you can avoid such things as anger, fear, let's see, what was some more of them? You can, with wisdom, take it on here, but I think, oh, okay, yeah, I'm running out of time. Okay, let me run on through this. Okay, the next one is right intent, and that is, you have to be, you know, it goes with your beliefs. You have to be willing to, your intentions, what shape you in the world, you know, if it's your morals, and you have to definitely, it helps you to the path of righteousness. Right speech, that is the same as we talked about, so no lying, no slander. And right conduct and the 4 precepts, this is where I saw where they both go hand in hand. And that's what got me to do both of them, because I said, well, it's the same thing as the 5 precepts and the Eightfold Path. So I thought it was necessary to do both. And right livelihood is doing, working for, say, you wouldn't want to work for some, like a drug dealer, because you're killing the community. You wouldn't want to work for a liquor store because you're killing the community intoxicants. You wouldn't want to live, you wouldn't want to work in a slaughterhouse because in Buddhist tradition you're killing, you're harming animals. And you just want to do something that is like recycling paper. You know, that's going green. And that's what everybody is, that's what everybody's doing these days. And right effort, purification of the mind, that is being mindfulness. That's what is necessary for, well, that told me about intoxicants. Because if you don't take heed to no intoxications and stuff like that, then your mind, you won't be in the right mind, and it'd be hard for you to follow the path of the Eightfold. And right mindfulness, again, is we get to where we start to concentrate, and the meditation comes in, where we meditate and we do the there's one thing I forgot. Right here. The Eightfold Truth, the Middle Path. 2 extremes to avoid. Hedonism and eccentricism. You want to avoid that because, one, you'd want to do anything just for the pleasure, anything that brings pleasure. You want to do it. You're looking for pleasure always. And the other one, eccentric, you're just doing, you go to extreme for pain. And, that's what I like about this right here, the middle path. You don't have to do all that. You just have to, the Buddha left these teachings so one can achieve the Buddhahood just by following these simple rules. And Bodhisattva is a person that attains nirvana, but he comes back into society to do good, to help other people, to achieve enlightenment, and that's what the Eightfold Path is about. We really want to try to escape the samsara and avoid rebirth and redeath. But the Bodhisattva, they will come back and to help, and that's in the Mahayana tradition. And there's some meditations and things that we do to stay mindful. Okay, that's it. Thank you. The 4 sights, which was suffering and problems of the world. And so that led him to want to look for something more in life than the riches that he was presented in the palace. And the 5 precepts, one thing about when you find enlightenment, one thing about that is, you form compassion. And this is what he done. The prince who became a monk on his way to, after he found his enlightenment and found his Nevada, he felt compassion. And so with that compassion, he legislated the 5 precepts and the 8-fold pact for the monks and the nuns in the monastery, and for the lay, and for his lay disciples, so they could have a way to anything that we do to another person, another animal, or life with centric being, then it affects us all. And so it's not just to it's to keep a good balance in life and to keep the universe in order. And the second precept is taking what is not, well, it's about stealing. Thou shalt not steal. And the second precept is about taking what is not freely given. Opens up when we think of things. This implies the intentions to live in balance with all of life and with the planet as well, the planet as a whole. And this is the kind of, the 5 precepts in the 8-fold pact, to me they kind of correspond because, well, this right action is what's called in the 8-fold pact. And what this means to me is not only harming a human being, but also we have to look at the planet, the universe as a whole, because we're all interconnected. And it's a way of learning, teaching. These are the 5 precepts: abstain from killing or harming living beings, abstain from stealing, abstain from improper sexual conduct, abstain from false speech, and abstain from taking alcohol or harmful drugs. And we'll get into those. Let us keep the precepts of no killing and no stealing. The first precept: I will undertake to respect all living